Yes, sir.
Hi. I like what was being said before about generosity and exchange, and was wondering, and it seems to me that that might be a good thing to think about in terms of like how to create time, like free time for your work, and was just wondering if you saw any patterns among the, like the example of Will Cotton, I believe was brought up about the contracting. If you saw any patterns among the artists that you work with, ways that they, made money and paid the rent and paid the bills and that kind of thing.
Do you want to talk about it too, since you read
I can, but I mean, of course. Do you have, because I felt like I took, I just spent all this time with Laura, I feel really bad.
Have a drink of water.
I can answer. There's all different ways of artists making living. The number one thing that I think almost everybody would agree is having your expenses low. That's the number one thing. Having no expenses, essentially, like your rent, where you live. You don't have to live in San Francisco. You don't have to live in Los Angeles. You don't have to live in New York. I think to create a living. I think that there are multiple ways in which artists make a living, and there's many ways in here. And juggling all those different ways, depending on what they're doing to make a living and survive, then time is excess. But a lot of the artists pick jobs that enables them that free time, but also that breathability so they can work. So selecting the environment in which you work, and then also creating a schedule for yourself in time management is essential. But there's a lot of factors to that. That has to do with where you live, what your financial nut is that you have to make every month as far as what your budget is and demand of your time for money, how much money you have to make, and then also what kind of person you are. Everybody's really different. In this book, the 40 essays, some are a little bit more opaque than others because it depends on the personality of the artist. But one reason why we did this book tour is because of those different essays and different personalities in this book. There are different conversations on the book tour, and that's why these are more like forums that initiate dialogue and hopefully help other artists in making a living. So, I'd be very general, but there's too many specific examples. I would just say, if you want to get the book, or you can get an ebook if you want, if you can't get this book here today. And then anybody that you want to reach out to ask more specific questions that you feel like you can, you have a connection to, you can contact them through their websites, and they'll be able to answer even more in-depth questions for you. But I don't know you, and I can't say, well, I know you're like Jan and she can do everything, and so then, I think Jan should talk to this person. Do you know what I mean? I think it's really individual at the end of the day.
I just would like to add a little note here.
Please.
And I don't know the ages of all of the individuals here, but what looked like one of the youngest post MFA, and said that in 4 years he'd had 12 jobs. So it's a good fit for you. If it isn't right, you go and you find something else. I can tell you that I had years of finding someone who would build stretcher bars for me, and then as soon as they started having shows and selling their work, they wouldn't do it anymore. They left it behind, and I had to find someone new. So building stretcher bars, working in galleries is very common. They're doing art handling, ship art.
Is in here.
Yeah. So
I graduated from Yale with $115,000 in debt 23 years ago. I paid for my education through creative financing and all through my work. And so I think that during that time, though, I know how to make pizzas from Domino's Pizza. I can shine shoes really well. I worked in libraries. I worked in bookstores. I love office jobs because I can file and use their computers. I was an office manager. There are many things I've done, and there are many things I do now that are crazy, but mostly having to do with my practice. So I think you do, you find what's gonna be good for you, and don't forget, when you pick your job, pick it because also the people that are in it, because that can be your community and your network of people. So even in an office manager position, I work for a lighting designer who's one of my very best friends who thought of me by me staying in touch with him for 23 years. I got a huge $400,000 public art, not a private commission. And I made like $5,000 from that. I learned how to budget after that, but everybody has to learn those things the hard way. But a lot of people, and I became an employer. That was really cool. But nonetheless, it was an opportunity that yielded other opportunities that came from just because I knew that person.
One of the artists here speaks of serendipity and cites it as an example jury duty, where a conversation with a fellow juror led to the revelation. I read your book, dear. It's a great time. That's amazing. So this other juror, a fellow juror, had a mother who was an art consultant, which led to a commission for public art, and then led a whole path of public art to support the work. And I think, you know, we talk about serendipity, but in fact, you create that. That individual artist in that situation looked at jury duty not as something to get through, but as a way of communicating with other people and getting to know them and being open to them. When you're open to someone else, they will be open to you, and they'll be...
It makes her own luck.
Yes.
Oprah always says that, actually, or she did when I saw her show. Yeah, I have an article for all my professional practice, making your own luck, if anybody wants that. And it's true, you open yourself up to different things. Anybody ask a question? Yes.
From the arts community, did anyone feel they had achieved fame and how they handled the fear of fame, particularly if let's say they had success at one gallery and we sold out, most of them were furious that they got to continue to produce the same type of work in order to stay.
You know, the people I know in my life don't think about that word. We don't really know what that means.
Okay.
I think actually they would all say, and most of them that I've had on this book tour, I asked them what do they think success is. They say continue to make their work. So that mentality is real. Pardon me? Yeah, having the freedom, that's success for them. Whereas a lot of people in the audience, like we did a big thing in Art Basel, and there were some in the audience, and I always say this now in the book tour, it's on my website, you can see the tape. But I think a lot of people think that money is a measure of success because that's how the society has set up, where how much money you make, but actually the freedom to be able to do what we want to do, which a lot of people in this country don't have that opportunity to do, is far more successful than fame. And fame is also, I just got that fame, I want to live forever, that just popped in my head. That kind of, it's so fragile and liquid and of the moment, and those who become famous go all the way up, they go all the way down, and that's dangerous for an artist because when their prices go that way up, they can never go down because they'll have devalue in their work and in their career and their life, and then they end up losing value of their practice and their work. So I think longevity is one of the reasons why I use the word sustaining. I think sustain is the big measure of success for me, but the readers of the book have to assess that. Everybody in this book is very down to earth. There was one person I asked to be in this book who gave, I don't think she knows that we're not friends anymore. I don't think she'll see this recording. But she gave me an essay that was all about, well, it took me 12 years to make it. And I said, what did you make? I asked her that. I said, what did you make? What does that mean? What does that mean? So she didn't, and she said, well, what's the point of the book? I don't want to give anybody that. I'm sick of that. So that's why I did this book. I was approached 2.5 years ago by Intellect and University of Chicago Press to write a book. And I didn't want to write a book because I felt like I wasn't an expert on anything except my work, which I'm still really working on. And so, but I was so agitated by the fact that artists still get out of school and they say, I asked them, and in fact, I was just at Claremont, and I asked 10 of the graduate students I did critiques with, and I said, what do you want to do when you get out of here? They said, the first thing they said, 8 out of 10 was get a gallery. I said, why do you want to do that? Are you really, is that really going to resolve the problem? Are they going to, I mean, that whole idea is problematic. And so you can tell that I'm passionate, right? This is now I've woken up and I can do 50 more book events. Because when I think about that, I'm doing another one of these books, actually. We're doing another one. But I think that I have this energy to be able to say that artists have the power and that a gallery, I have 4 galleries, they're all great partners for me, but they don't make up how I solely sustain my living. Yeah.
Lydia?
I was going to ask you how you eliminated that sector of people, the kind of make it mentality, and you sort of brought that up in a way. Did you know beforehand with most of the artists that you invited to be in the book that they were the kind of people that cared about their work more than the careerism, or what I'm saying is there seems to be something so it's so obvious, it's like, how do I say this?
I think I get what you're saying. I mean,